Hello! Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever applies to you, depending on where you are when you're watching this. For me, it is an oddly start-timed episode today, 3:45 p.m. in Pacific Standard Time, where I am, just outside of Seattle. It is Sunday, November 21st, 2021. For those of us in the United States, next week is Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving for those of you in the United States. Anyway, we're going to do a quick review of discussions, issues, and PRs. Because it's been a couple of weeks, there's not a whole lot here today, so this is probably going to be a quick one, but we'll see. Discussion-wise, looks like we only have one thing that was gray. I am going to drill into this one just to make sure that I am interpreting all that correctly. I guess maybe I'm not interpreting that correctly. All right. Recommendation is not to use class and collection fixtures at all when being dependent on a test output helper. Let's see. I really say what? Be sufficient to change this to, this isn't fixed. Test output helper requires an active test. Diagnosis messages show up in the tests window. I honestly don't know what that question means. This is appearing in the output window log. I want to see them here and here. Sorry, I don't understand the question. But I'll try to restate my answer. We can't control how Visual Studio or ReSharper shows those messages. Because we don't control those messages. We don't control those UIs. I'm not sure what class or collection fixtures has to do with it. Okay. I just up and up an XGV3 core. Blah, 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 blah. Move from XGV3 Common to XGV3 Core. Project uses classes and previously targeted Net Standard can no longer be upgraded to Net Standard 2.0. Instead, it must target Net Core App or Net Framework 4.7.2. The short answer is there is no way to have a unit test project target Net Standard 2.0. So if you're asking about unit tests, then you must choose one of those two things. .NET Framework or .NET Core. And to round, that's not what I wanted to do. And to round that out, we will also point to this. And this doc page why doesn't XUnit.net support Net Standard? That's what the title of it is, right? Is slightly out of date, but still applicable. It should be even more obvious now. V3 architecture, that projects must be executable. There's no such thing as an executable Net Standard project. If you mean you want to use this from an extensibility point in XUnit v v3 core extensibility project targeting XUnit. And we'll go double check this, but I'm pretty sure that the person is correct, that XUnit v3 core does... huh. Actually, that is... Oh, first of all, my font is smaller because I'm not in presentation mode. Target framework of... Well, that's interesting. I wonder if that's because of this. The current NuGet targets include Net 472 and Net Core App 3.1. Even though XUnit v3 Core DLL itself is built against Net Standard 2.0. Precisely to drive home the point I make above with respect to projects not, let's see, projects not supporting Net Standard. If you're doing extensibility, you should instead depend on xunit.v3.extensibility.core, which allows you to target Net Standard 2.0. So the DLLs actually, where are the DLLs are here, right? And then this depends on that, right? Okay. We're not forced to multi-targets. XUnit v3 core NuGet package depends on XUnit v3 extensibility core NuGet package. Sense. Okie dokie. Let's go backwards then until we find things that I have already answered. Okay, so I've already answered that. And I'm going to assume that means I've already answered that. Okay. So we're done with discussions. Let's go to issues. These are the 4 that need to be dealt with. So let's go ahead and open those in new tabs. Documentation. List of available attributes under uses. As a continuation of 1762, it would be great value in having a single page listing all the attributes section provides and what the purposes of each attribute. Page should be grouped by attribute usage. Assemble the class method. A nice addition would be the option of removing the grouping and having a simple list, but if it comes down to a choice between grouped and non-grouped, I think grouped would have far more value. Perhaps deprecated attributes, if there are any, should be grouped separately from others. So something to be done, I imagine could be done as part of 1902. 23. Okay, so there's a bunch of stuff in here. I obviously, this is the new one from 6 days ago. I think for the comparisons page. So what is this 2398? Include flow ID and parse service messages for standard out. Don't know why that was linked. Skylight Records produced by Chad Michael Shea in the Rock and Roll Hall of... I don't... What? I need to... Yeah. I'll give you a WTF face. I honestly don't know what that is. Okay. The generic theory method does not support decimal argument type. Yes, that is correct. Actually, no, that shouldn't be correct. I thought he was talking about inline data. Ambiguous match found. Fails and pass. Okay, so this is ambiguous match found. Search to bring up on the original exceptions raised from here. Oh, okay. Raised from here. Really? Get runtime method can throw, huh? So this is type utility 184. Type utility. I mean, obviously, this looks like a bug. The documentation doesn't say that it can throw. At least the XML docs don't. Let's try... yeah, let's try that. Let's try that. And... okay, argument null. Ambiguous more than one method found with the specified name. Well, that's really interesting. And we're looking for op explicit. The argument value type is decimal. Huh. Okay, well this looks like a bug. Alright. Oh, yeah, this is an issue. For some reason in my head I thought we were still doing discussions. Use decimal values as attribute parameter. Decimal isn't a primitive type, can't be used as a constant. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Steve's brain went to the same place my brain went to, but seeing that you're using member data and not inline data, that's fine. It's also weird that it only fails with... oh yeah, it's without decimal. Oh, that's with decimal. Okay, yeah, I see. Yeah, so this is a legit bug. This is a core framework. Sure. Bug. I'm gonna say this is probably a 2x bug as well, so I'm going to throw that on there just for fun in case somebody wants to fix that. Definitely seems like a bug. I'll definitely take a fix against both the v2 and main branches. Thanks. Yeah, that just outright seems like a bug. And I have no reason to believe it's not a bug, right? Suppose I could just grab it. This is a sample repository. Okay. So this is what? This is 2418. Let's open another one of those. Repro. 2418. Git clone. Xunit bug. Okay, .NET build. Just for fun, are you so that's a 2x, right? .NET run, so that's, oops, sorry, .NET test. So that's definitely a 2x bug. Curious if this is also a 3x bug. Alright, so let's do package. Really? I mean, come on. Include XUnit v3, version is 010 whatever. .NET build. .NET run. All right. Definitely is broken in both places. Not that I wouldn't have expected it to be. I didn't expect it to be fixed. I don't remember touching that code for v3, so there you go. All right. Member data in derived classes fails in 241 on .NET Core. Not supported. Problem twice, and both times figured it out without anyone else something. Okay, so when member data is an abstract class, and using a name and static method from a derived class throws an exception with specified method is not supported. That's weird because that's clearly not valid data. PR that I believe is fixed, though struggling to know exactly where to put the repro. Alright. Oh, this is the member. This is not the data. This is... Okay. For some reason I'm like, is that the data? No, this is the data. Okay, so there's a PR here for this, which I assume we're going to get to in a minute. So I'll go ahead and leave this here. This is our breaking binary compatibility. So, 30 seconds of backstory on this. There's a new feature, caller argument expression, that finally got integrated into C# 10. So it requires a .NET 6.0 SDK. And it allows you to do this. So let me show you. If I go look at guard, you'll notice that I made some changes to guard. I swapped these around. So if you've ever seen the guard code, the guard used to look like this. Guard argument not null, name of foo. Jeez. Yeah, thanks for all the help, Visual Studio. Right, so this is guard argument not null, name of foo. This is how we used to use it. So I swapped these because now what you can do is, instead of having to write this, name of foo, I know you're going to try and help me out, I can actually just write this. And this caller expression argument, right, is lined up for arg value. And I call this arg name. It will take whatever literal text you put here and automatically pass it for this. So now if we look at some of the references to argument not null, what you'll see is usage here gives me guard argument not null, and what the compiler transparently turns that into is this, because this is that text. But like literally, if this was like this, it would literally write that as the text, which is fine. I mean, that's a pretty cool feature. So let's undo that, and let's undo all of this, because I obviously don't want any of that. All right. So what is the new discussion on this? Oh, yeah. So James asked for features for assertions where we could use caller expression argument and say, hey, I'd like to be able to write assert true 2 plus 2 equals 5 and have it give me a message that says assert failed 2 plus 2 equals 5. Seems interesting. And so I listed a few of the problems. Let's ignore that. So I listed a few of the problems with where we are today. So there were two suggestions up here. There's one around assert true, where we just have a Boolean condition and we can just replace that. And there's another one here where we have assert equal, where we have expected actual and then string expected expression and string actual expression. And then we would get a message that says, like, 2 plus 2 was 4, not 5, which is 5. Okay, so this is basically like take the expression and turn it into something interesting. Let me show you one more facet of this in Guard that's going to make what I say make a little bit more sense. So let's go back here again, right? All right, so when I say Guard and I say argument not null, the first thing you should know is that this argname parameter here is still here and visible. Right? So I say diagnostics message sync. This thing is still here, right? Even though this is legitimate, it's really only legitimate in the case of when I use C#10. Because if I don't use C#10, what will get passed in here is null, right? Because this is purely a compiler feature. Ignore that for a moment and just look at that, which is what the user sees. It's an optional argument because it's null, which is a requirement for caller expression or caller argument expression, right? You'll see it'll yell at me if I don't do that. Okay, so it has to have a default value of null, and this has to match one of the arguments. So it'll say, hey, this was applied to parameter argname. There's no parameter name here, right? So this needs to match this. And the reason I had to do that is obviously I can't do this because arg value is just another parameter name. I can't really get a name on that. So they built some extra stuff into the compiler. But the important thing is that if you're, as an end user, consuming Guard and you're not using C#10, this is essentially this. And it's not nearly as useful as when I forced you to pass this before. Before, this used to be not null, and I forced you to pass it. But now I know because we're talking about the xunit.net source itself, I know that that's compiled to C#10 because I've enabled that. All right, so if we go to build props, hey, lang version 10, which means you need to have .NET SDK 6. So I know that it's okay to see that way. However, imagine now you're going to use assert equal, right? So let's go. Sure, save those. They shouldn't change. I don't care. Let's go to a test, right? Just so we can, do a little assert. So if I go to assert equal, right? So these are my variants of assert: string expected, string actual, memory. All right, let's go find the one that's object because that's really the one we're talking about, right? So many of these. So many things you can make equal. I'll say this is it. So assert equal t expected, t actual. So imagine as an end user that when you type assert equal and you see this version, that there are two extra parameters: expected expression and actual expression. Like from a usability standpoint, that kind of sucks. Right? That's not great. So yeah, I'm not super psyched by that. Here's the other one. So we have assert true. This is already the existing version of assert, right? So we have condition. Ignore the fact that one of them is nullable and one's not. Right? So we have condition and then maybe a message. Okay. So you can do that. if we were to try and make a version of this that had the condition expression as a null string, right, from a usability standpoint, that would look exactly like this version, except now it would say comma string condition condition expression equals null, which again, not wild about that from a usability standpoint, but it also means it's a breaking change with the existing API, which already has a version with bool comma string, right? So that one's even worse. Not only do we end up with a version that has the expression hanging out there, but then we break existing calls because they look like they're calls to the expression version. So those are my two primary complaints. So that's what I listed here under Boolean assertions. I said, hey, this is what it looks like today. This is what it would look like in the future. Guess what? That's broken. All right, so what if we don't call it true? What if we call it valid? Assert valid. And now we take James's example, which is assert valid 2 plus 2 equals 5, which would result in assert valid failure 2 plus 2 equals 5. This is a reasonable thing, except here's my problem. I'm having a hard time coming up with an expression where an existing assertion isn't better. So in this particular example, I said you should use assert equal 5 out of 2.2, which, by the way, already gives you a plenty good message. What it doesn't give you is it doesn't give you 2.2. It gives you 5 and 4, right? So, of course, his other suggestion was, what about assert equal? So then I come down here and I look at this and I say, well, this is what assert equal would look like, right? And then I call this and I say, hey, might yield a message like this. The problem with this is like what I just said. We have a pretty steep usability cost. These arguments are sitting here waiting for someone to go, what is this? I don't understand this. You don't have to pass them, obviously. If you don't pass them, we would just take the values, and then you get the exact same message you get today, which is expected 5, actual 4. But it clutters the API because these things never disappear. And what's worse, I can't guarantee that you're going to use C#10. Right? I can't guarantee that you're going to use .NET SDK 6 because our minimum bar is either .NET Framework 4.7.2 or .NET Core 3.1. Right? So I'm not always going to get an expression. So I look at this and I'm like, yeah, I'm not a big fan. So then I solicited the community to say, why don't you tell me whether or not this is a good idea or not? So we have one suggestion here for shipping them as an alternative package. That's a possibility. Because I can't on a binary level know whether or not you're using C#10. So this would be, you get XUnit v3 assert and XUnit v3 assert dot C#10. I don't know. Something to say this is a newer version. But we get some agreement that the usability concerns are definitely there. All right, so second answer. Try me into somebody so I tweet as with these are my qualifications. Being able to read a tweet and click a link. Very good, Jason. That's funny. All right. There are two possible scenarios to consider. One, I'm debugging a single test in front of me. I think, by the way, I think Jason is on... Okay, so Jason, it works on Roslyn. So let's understand we're filtering this a little bit through the things that Jason does, which may not be exactly like the way you or I work. Submitted a change to CI that might have broken all sorts of things and got a pile of test failures back, and I'm trying to see if there's a common pattern to understand what might have caused it to triage my next steps. My problem with this is, do you not run the test before you check in? I don't know, maybe the Roslyn tests are too expensive to run before you check in, but I never do that. So once again, I'm kind of led with this going, this feels like a compelling argument, but it doesn't pass muster for me personally. So in another case, I don't have the source code immediately and consider some tests I recently wrote. All right, so he gives us an example. Let's go look at the test recently wrote. Assert equal to compilation syntax trees count. Assert to generator additional files converted count. So I'm sure he's going to bring up the fact that both of these things are 2, and he's not obviously looking at a failure going to go, yeah, which 2 failed? There's another 2 down here, by the way. And then 3 3s. So 3 2s and 3 3s. Sounds like, I don't know, a Yahtzee roll or something. Okay. If I break those, failure to be something I expected to actual 1, which is completely clear if I have the test open and I can debug it locally, but from the CI run, it's not obvious what that even is testing unless I navigate to the test, pull it up manually. If the expression is included, it's obvious to me, oh, I changed blah, 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 whatever. So essentially, if I were to be able to provide this version for Jason, I could take Ida's version as well of, hey, let's do a separate package. Maybe use an ID CI tooling issue. The exception knows what's line number through, then perhaps it should pull up the source code and show it to me. This is absolutely a good point, but I tend not to want to be dependent on things like that. Like, I have no control over your CI system, and trying to make demands of your CI system doesn't sound great. Oh, whatever. There's also the human mistake having expressions help with. Considering my test examples again, I've got 2 asserts, both asserting 2 things are 2. I've absolutely made the mistake before misreading the test run output and thinking it's the first assert throwing when it's really the second, or vice versa, and then going on a wild goose chase trying to debug the problem. Having expressions would help there too. I fully concede that there's some usability issues with these between showing the arguments, which makes things noisy, and you not knowing whether the user's toolchain can actually take advantage of this. I'm wondering if there's a gap that we still need to improve. So again, taking Ida's suggestion of having a separate package would solve this. And I should say, if the primary concern is IDE holding us up, feel free to file a bug on .NET Browser and we can brainstorm some ideas there. Discussion cover a couple contexts now. Essentially the problem of, we really like to be able to do this for reasons preferred overload, choosing yet existing rules and compat means not going to be chosen. This has come up for recent Lambda work, caller info expression, and other proposals like caller identity. I do think it's a problem we're going to need to look more into, because I hate that we're putting API authors in this position. Pick the new feature or compat. I sketched a rough solution to the problem here. Needs a lot more work. Jared, by the way, also works on the C# compiler. So yeah, makes sense that he would have thoughts on this. Needs a lot more work, but I think it could be the basis for a way to move forward with new overloads while maintaining binary compatibility. Okay, so this was a comment Jared has on API attribute for pulling caller identity. All right, the overload issue is a problem here, because we're effectively stuck with the overload we don't want to be used anymore. With debug assert / caller info expression, more of a convenience problem. We'd really like using debug assert, but the product can move forward without it. With caller identity, it could be important as successive AOT. Basically, if you can't move existing APIs to leverage this feature, then seemingly puts AOT at a bit of a risk. That ups the stakes. The imperfect solution I'd been thinking in my head was yet another feature. Essentially, imagine an attribute named binary compat only attribute. When a method is marked with this attribute, then a compiler will never include it in a candidate set for purposes of overload resolution. The method exists purely for binary compatibility reasons. This will allow us to solve this problem rather easily. Burden be on API authors to ensure they don't create source breaks from doing this. For the majority of use cases here, I think what would also be missing you would probably want to hide this one from IntelliSense, which is something you can also do. This is like it's something visible attribute, editor visible, something like that. All right. So there's a bunch of other things here. I kind of want to say It is, I think it's called editor visible, right? Editor visible. I don't want any of those checkboxes checked, please. Feel like in the assert class, editor browsable. Right. Okay. So let's copy this, copy all this text. In case of xnu.net, we'd probably also want to hide the version that has all the extra junk on it. Because the extra junk causes usability problems. So it'd be more like this for us. Okay, so let's say assert. Alright, and then there's a binary, so this is public static void equal t expected, t actual. Alright, and then I'd want to do editor browsable false. Insert with, what is this attribute called? Caller argument expression. For this scenario as well. I'm going to do this. Right, like that. I assume only ever seeing assert equal t, but the call only ever actually matching assert equal t string. Yes. And let's go ahead and bring a link back into this. Yes. Ending up calling. Okay. So it does solve my usability issues. And I think would prevent me from needing to ship 2 separate versions of my assembly. That said, except I'm guessing not support for ECO would depend on the compiler, so yeah, now I'm back to shipping 2 different assertion assemblies and forcing the end user to choose the more appropriate one. Since I don't have a way in the NuGet package to say use these binaries for C# 10 and use these binaries for C#. Alright, so I don't think we've actually solved any problems here. I do think this helps the usability problem, but I don't think it helps this. So, you know, we'll see. Okay. So this should be a PR. Let's do a quick refresh here. That's the one we're going to go look at. So I don't have any labels on it yet. That's fine. All right. Support runtimes where reflected type exists, such as NetStandard 2.0 compatible runtimes. Enable Configuration Manager on .NET 6. Okay. Really don't know. That's kind of a PR out of the blue, which I'm not a huge fan of. Okay. So this is for this, right? 1983. 1983. Good. Reflection type info. This change should restore the functionality worked in NetStandard 2.0 compatible with 2.4 that breaks when upgrading 2.4.1. I think the missing unit tests are possible, but still working out where they go, perhaps alongside this test case. Okay. And after some playing around, I've realized none of the theory tests light up for non.NET full framework anyway. Tried as low impact as possible, investigating using declaring type, but there's a subtle difference, which is exactly what the data discoverer is using it for. Declaring type would resolve to the base class for reflected type. Well, correctly. Okay, well. Don't honestly know what the change is. Let's go see what the change is. So it goes with reflection to go look at reflected type. If we have reflected type, then we use it. Otherwise, we throw not supported. It's interesting that this is the solution to the problem. Because if I go look at reflection method info in v3, we just wrap reflected type. Alright, I'm confused. Because wasn't this broken v3? Or is this the one that he said it was already fixed in v3? Oh no, this is the one where he said it was already fixed in v3. Similar to the above repo. Testing when targeting a .NET Core target, not full framework. So the difference, how come that didn't open? So the problem is that we remove net standard 2.0. Right. Yeah. Because it was broken. Yeah, so I think we'll go ahead and approve and run this. This is fine. Obviously, we would want some tests here. I'm fine with the approach of dynamically looking for reflected tape, though it should be done in a cached lookup. Since these wrappers are used a lot. Alright, we're going to let that build. Alright, so enable Configuration Manager in .NET 6. It's finally been unblocked by .NET Runtime. This will enable testing application code using Configuration Manager. Just like on .NET Framework, it will read from AppConfig. Doesn't work on Mac OS. Or, why is the Mac OS build broken? Unable to process file command env successfully. Invalid environment variable format 010. I really don't understand what the hell has happened there. Where did that happen? How did that happen? I don't think I want this. Yeah, I don't think I want this. I'm not sure why Bryce sent this in. We are deprecating AppConfig in D3. Do you have a reason we shouldn't? Which makes this PR irrelevant from my perspective. I'm curious. Can I just rerun this? I'll rerun everybody, that's fine. Okay, so I think that's it for PRs today. There. Yeah, this is an old PR for cert. These are old PRs for analyzers. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's the sum total. I'm going to let these things build, but, you know, I think that's pretty much all she wrote for today. Thanks for hanging out. Short, well, I thought it would be a short stream, but it's almost an hour. I guess, even though there's only a few things to look at, some stuff really needed to be dug in on. So I'm going to go ahead and let these things build and take a look at them. Don't know yet if I'll need to do another one of these next week. My guess is with this coming week being a holiday, there's probably not going to be much action in here, but, you know, I'll take a look and we'll see. So, anyway, that's it. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.